The B-2 Spirit stealth bomber completely redefined the concept of air superiority. It was so far ahead of its game that it's never even been detected or targeted by an enemy weapon system during any of its missions. Why was this aircraft so ahead of its time, and what made it so dominant? How did this aircraft, which is nearly invisible on radar and is able to carry a payload that could level most countries, seemingly appear out of nowhere? From top-secret research to classified materials, we'll unravel what made the B-2 bomber light years ahead of its time. The B-2 can actually trace its roots back to Nazi Germany. The Horten brothers had already conceived a concept which gives the B-2 its almost otherworldly design, the flying wing. The Horten 229 was able to achieve a speed of 500 miles per hour, far faster than anything else in the skies during World War II. Luftwaffe head Hermann Göring called for a lightweight bomber to help offset the growing fuel consumption demands of a multi-front war. Testing was nearing completion in early 1945, but as the war had turned overwhelmingly against them, the Germans were never able to field the plane. While the Horten brothers made significant advances in the flying wing design, an American named Jack Northrop was making strides of his own. When the war ended, Northrop was convinced that where the Germans had failed, he could succeed in creating the ultimate bomber. In the initiation of Operation Paperclip, an effort by America to acquire all of the advanced technological assets from the dissolved Nazi regime, many of the secrets of the flying wing aircraft made their way over the Atlantic. Northrop continued to pursue his dream of building the flying wing aircraft until his first major successful prototype came in the way of the YB-49. The YB-49 could fly up to 500 miles per hour with a ceiling of 40,000 feet, but Northrop's dreams would face a major setback when, due to the difficulty in controlling the aircraft and its instability during flight, the US government ordered all of the aircraft to be destroyed. This decision would come to haunt them, however, as the Soviet Union was stockpiling even more advanced weapons, particularly air defense missiles. The US government needed a bomber that could penetrate Soviet airspace without being a sitting duck for Soviet air defenses. Air defense systems rely on an array of radars that detect incoming enemy aircraft so that fighters and anti-aircraft missile batteries can be activated. For much of the Cold War, the US relied on its fleet of B-52 Stratofortresses. While a very competent bomber on its own, the B-52 was becoming more and more vulnerable to Soviet ground-to-air missiles that could reach higher and higher altitudes. These air defense systems identify an aircraft by its radar signature. A radar signature is the feedback a specific object returns to a radar display due to its radar cross-section. Typical aircraft have a large radar cross-section when compared to other atmospheric objects like birds. With the B-52 having a huge radar cross-section due to its size, the top US military brass wanted a solution, and they wanted it fast. The 1970s saw a returned interest to developing bombers which could penetrate enemy airspace without detection, and DARPA requested that the top aeronautics firms in the US provide it with its best concepts. Lockheed Martin had a leg up here, having recently developed the incredibly complex and advanced SR-71, which had a number of stealth features. Lockheed was given a small contract to pursue the area further and develop the initial concept in the Hopeless Diamond model. This early model would eventually be developed into the stealth fighter we all recognize today, the F-117. The F-117 is considered a stealth aircraft, but has features that would later be improved upon, such as the rigid angular outer paneling. There was not advanced enough computer modeling at the time to create the complex sloped surfaces seen on the B-2. The technology developed during these secretive programs would lay the groundwork for the B-2 Spirit. With the election of President Ronald Reagan came an influx of vigor for developing advanced military hardware, and stealth tech was at the top of his list. The ATB, or Advanced Technology Bomber Program, which had begun under the Carter administration in 1979, was ramped up and given a much larger budget. The flying wing design from Northrop and advances in stealth tech accomplished by Lockheed and DARPA were on course to create one of the greatest aircrafts ever to grace the skies. The US government submitted a bidding competition for all the major domestic aircraft manufacturers to create a next-generation bomber capable of bypassing enemy radar detection. This was a technology which did not exist in full form, and many of these corporations were unable to produce a sufficient prototype. Somewhat ironically, Northrop was selected nearly 30 years after the aircraft had been destroyed by the government's orders. Work began on the design of the aircraft with the utmost secrecy under the Black program. The workers were almost always out of uniform and subject to regular polygraph tests. Most of Congress was denied knowledge of what and how much money was being spent on the program. This was done to avoid the Soviets gaining any clues as to what was going on by examining US budgetary documents and technical journals. The clock was ticking as they needed to develop this quickly before too many people started asking questions about the mounting expense of this mystery program. For the manufacturing, a former Ford automobile assembly plant in Pico Rivera, California was acquired and heavily rebuilt. The plant's employees were sworn to complete secrecy regarding their work. To avoid the possibility of suspicion, components were typically purchased through front companies, and military officials would visit out of uniform. The secrecy extended so far that access to nearly all information on the program by both Government Accountability Offices or GAO and virtually all members of Congress itself was severely limited until the mid-1980s. Northrop was the B-2's prime contractor. Major subcontractors included Boeing, Hughes Aircraft, GE, and Vought Aircraft. An employee at this plant, Thomas Cavanaugh, was arrested and sentenced to life in prison for attempting to sell classified secrets about the program to the Soviets. The demand from the government was simple: build a bomber that can never be spotted by radar. The endeavor to do so was anything but, and many thought it was simply impossible. To give a sense of the work required, Northrop had to acquire and construct some of the fastest and most efficient computer hardware on the planet to build a supercomputer capable of producing the 3D models needed to work on the design. They also needed to create a brand new software program to run those models, a first of this scale. The press was abuzz with the mystery surrounding the program, and many speculations began to circulate as to what was going on behind Northrop's doors. They finally got their answer on November 22, 1988. Everyone was awestruck by this new aircraft with its otherworldly, almost alien-looking design. The aircraft stunned military officials around the world and at home. The slope structure of the aircraft paneling makes it seem to change shape when viewed from different angles. This has the effect of causing radar beams to be reflected off into the atmosphere or return in extremely small numbers, giving the bomber a similar radar cross-section to a bird. Former Air Force Chief of Staff General Larry Welch even claimed that the aircraft had a radar cross-section in the insect category. The aircraft is also coated in RAM, or radar-absorbent materials, which are highly classified but are generally known to contain a carbon graphite composite material. The bomber is also equipped with advanced electronic warfare countermeasures capable of knocking out enemy radar positions. With its engines embedded inside the aircraft paneling and an advanced exhaust system which mixes the hot gas with the cold air in the atmosphere, the B-2 is almost invisible to heat-seeking missiles that might be lucky enough to be launched at it after it's detected. The loadout of the B-2 was astounding as well. The original loadout was up to 40,000 pounds of bombs, which could include up to 16 nuclear warheads. With its ability to penetrate any air defense systems without detection, and a payload able to knock out over a dozen major cities or military installations, the B-2 inspired fear all around the globe. Given that the B-2 came out only a couple of years before the Soviet Union fell, its need was eventually called into question. With an inflation-adjusted price of $1.2 billion in today's money, the fleet would have been wildly expensive. With an original order of 131 aircraft, it was now being asked if such a massive fleet of stealth, essentially nuclear bombers, was necessary. The original order was cut to only 21 aircraft. Even with this reduced number, the aircraft projects significant global power and has yet to see a rival come to challenge its supremacy as a stealth bomber. Even with all the fear that came with the power of the B-2, it had still not seen any real-life action until, by the authorization of NATO, the B-2 conducted its first sorties. During the Yugoslavian conflict, the aircraft was used to strike targets to halt the fighting, and during one of those missions, an enemy MiG fighter was present beneath the aircraft, yet never realized it was present. The first real-life test showed that the B-2 had a place in the post-Cold War world. The aircraft also has the ability to conduct some of the longest missions ever attempted. With the aircraft being able to travel up to 6,000 miles without the need to refuel, this technological wonder can operate with its modest crew of 2 people completely on its own. One mission flew from their home base at Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri, to the Indian Ocean without any stops. The pilots regularly conducted bombing missions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and many other targets in the Middle East from Missouri without landing anywhere. The same pilots would often rotate to complete flight missions well over 24 hours. With the help of air refueling operations, the aircraft could take off from Whiteman, drop bombs in the Middle East, and return to Whiteman without ever touching the ground. The current loadout of the B-2 is astounding. The bomber has seen significant upgrades over the years and can carry up to 80 JDAMs, or Joint Direct Attack munitions, which was upgraded from an original 16. Other conventional weapons in its arsenal include Mark 82-84 bombs, CBU-87 combined effects munitions, Gator mines, and the GBU-97 sensor-fused weapon. The B-2 is capable of carrying a massive 30,000-pound MOP, or massive ordnance penetrator, which can penetrate even the most heavily reinforced bunkers for deadly effect. Cruise missiles have also been added to its arsenal, and with nuclear-capable cruise missiles, this allows for a standoff strike capability. A standoff strike capability means that the B-2 does not have to penetrate as far into enemy territory to deliver its conventional or nuclear ordnance carried via cruise missile. Accompanying this impressive loadout of weaponry is some of the most advanced avionics on the planet. The B-2 was once equipped with hundreds of standalone computers to accomplish various in-flight tasks, such as terrain mapping, flight data, and much more. These have been replaced by a single integrated avionics management computer, which gives pilots a higher degree of usability in flight. Much of these are integrated with advanced 1553B data bus communication lines and fiber optic lines. The aircraft is also EMP hardened, so in the event of a specific EMP attack or upper atmospheric nuclear weapon detonation, the B-2 can operate business as usual even while much of the country would be without power. The B-2 is also equipped with advanced in-flight communication equipment, including Link 16 and HF or high-frequency satellite links, so even well on their way to the enemy territory, they can receive mission updates without enemy interception. Highly advanced onboard electronic warfare systems provide additional protection against enemy detection and targeting. With an ever-advancing payload and sensory array, the B-2 stealth bomber continues to stay one step ahead of the competition. This bomber still has global militaries scrambling to come up with an answer to the capabilities, and with the increase in standoff strike capabilities, the B-2 can continue to operate even if advanced detection methods are developed. The aircraft remains ahead of its time, but advancing global threats are challenging the aging Titan for supremacy. The Department of Defense has commissioned the design and creation of the next step in stealth bomber evolution, the B-21 Raider. With the B-2 still reigning supreme, we can only imagine what its successor will bring to bear against her enemies.